You probably know Nestle as the world's leading producer of rabbit-advertised diarrhea.
Bro, what do you mean? How is it? What is the name of this? This is called The Evil Business of Nestle. I used to love Nestle. I used to drink it all the time. And now I'm 30 and I have diabetes, but those two things cannot be linked. What are you talking about?
Powder. But what you probably don't know is that Nestle is the largest food company in the world.
Wow.
I use the term food lightly as their products mostly consist of powdered and processed food-style tribute acts to the real thing.
Hey, you know.
For reasons unrelated to that, though, some people on the internet think Nestle is worse than Hitler, Hiroshima, and hangnails combined. But why? Let's find out. Nestle began life in Switzerland in 1867, when Henry Nestle was one of the first people to produce milk-based baby formula.
Ooh, okay. Is that a good thing? Okay.
A vital, life-saving product for babies who, for whatever reason, couldn't breastfeed naturally.
Ew, why would a baby have milk coming out of their boobies already? I don't get it.
150 years and over 2,000 brands and corporate acquisitions later, dried udder squirt is still one of Nestle's biggest moneymakers.
Wow.
The formula industry's market value is projected to reach $119 billion by 2025.
Wow, good for them.
And even better than that, companies make 23 cents for every dollar they make in sales. It's a very profitable commodity, which is crazy because it is just dried milk with some vegetable oils and sugars, and what's more, it's crap.
That's probably food. True. Even like baby food that you see in the aisle, I feel like it's terrible. You look at how much salt is in them. You're better off just getting like apples and shit and just making it yourself, you know, like an apple, you know, it's like carrots, grind them up or whatever, make the mush yourself and chew it yourself, spit it into your kid's mouth, you know, whatever.
Every medical professional will tell you that formula is vastly inferior compared to Mum's old-fashioned own brand.
Wow. Mom's not looking too bad.
Unless, of course, that medical professional is being paid by Nestle. In the 1970s, Nestle was expanding its formula market globally, but it ran into a problem, or rather, two big problems.
Hey, two big solutions there, if you ask me. That Abigail Shapiro? That ain't bad. That is not bad, my brother. That's what I'm talking about, dog. Good for this guy. I like this guy.
The humble breast was Nestle's biggest,
Jesus, bro, what the fuck? That's like a softcore porn.
Bounciest competitor. So they did what any multinational conglomerate would do and began undermining this basic and necessary human function. Nestle launched an aggressive global
Abubi Shapiro
marketing campaign which encouraged mothers
I always cringe when I see like an old ad like targeted towards black people. It doesn't even look that racist. I'm surprised it's not even that racist. I can't even find any racism in this picture. You know, maybe I just don't see it. It's the very best milk for your baby. Okay.
To swap the breast for the bottle. But what was more morally dubious was that Nestle were paying medical professionals to promote their powder. In Asia and Africa, Nestle hired a legion of saleswomen to dress up as nurses and give out free medical advice as well as free samples of their product. Nestle's fake nurses gave out free samples that lasted just long enough for mothers to stop being able to produce milk naturally.
Wow, that's fucked up. Because that's how it works, right? So your baby's born and you lactate, but if you don't, if no one sucks on your booby milk, you stop lactating. Your body stops like eliciting the response. And so wow, that's actually really fucked up. That's more fucked up than I think anybody watching really realizes. Because back then we were not nearly as intelligent as we are now. That thing that I just said that's common knowledge now. I think it was probably not even close to common knowledge back then. So imagine just producing milk. And then, like, you're just like, yeah, this is fun. And then you just kind of like, oh, shit, I stopped breastfeeding. And then like, oh, shit, my fucking baby. I have to feed them this formula now. Oops, I forgot, you know? It's fucking crazy.
Making them dependent on Nestle's expensive product.
That's why I'm going to make sure I drink my wife's booby milk. Keep it going forever.
In order to, you know, keep their child alive. They did this through home visits and even on maternity wards. Nestle's uniformed pushers were slinging more powder than Pablo Escobar. They would also suggest that their artificial product was better than the real thing, which wasn't just weapons-grade bollocks, it was also extremely dangerous. Breast milk contains very important sciencey stuff that helps prevent pneumonia, infection, and malnutrition, which are much higher risks in countries that don't have regular access to clean water, i.e. all the countries that Nestle was sending their nurses to.
That's the thing, because I was raised on formula, but okay, so I guess it's not so bad in America, because we're America #1, you know? As
bad PR headlines go, dead babies is pretty much unbeatable, unless it's preceded by the phrase, a gigantic pile of. and that's exactly what Nestle and other formula companies were contributing to. Naturally, people got real mad about this.
At least they weren't white babies, you know what I'm saying? Oh, hit the whoa. Racism.
Protests and boycotts, one notably ran by War on Want, really got people worked up. Nestle's upper management was even brought before a US Senate hearing to account for the multiple, dead kids.
Well, what do you feel is your corporate responsibility to find out the extent of the use of your product in those circumstances in the developing part of the world? Do you feel that you have any responsibility?
We can't have that responsibility, sir. I missed the part where that's my problem.
But in
oh, Jesus, that's fucked up. What did they... Well, so here's the question. What did the U.S. government do about it? The fuck did the U.S. government do about it? Because, unfortunately, companies are scum fucks. So it's the government's responsibility to be mommy and say, hey, listen, you got to get your shit together. Stop killing people. So what did the government do? Slap on the wrist? What the fuck?
1981, the World Health Organization made it Nestle's problem by passing the International Code of Marketing Breast Milk Substitutes, better known in the community just as the Code. Ooh. These guidelines were pushed on Nestle and other formula companies, and that's why subsequent commercials have to feature these little pro-booby asides.
Make it gentle, easily digestible. No formula is more nutritious. Remember, breast milk is best.
Since this colossal dose of bad PR, Nestle have done their best to waft away that dead baby smell. They even funded this pro-boob
What is this, fucking Cocoa Melon?
propaganda supergroup known as the Super Babies.
Bro, is this how Cocoa Melon started? Okay, literally could have skipped the whole video and just told me that Nestle created Cocoa Melon, and I would have been on your fucking side from the start. Look at this. This is ridiculous. This is literally fucking Cocoa Melon.
Super Babies on board. Take it away now. We're breastfed and we know it. Breastfed and we know it, yo.
Look, I had to watch a lot of these, so I'm inflicting them on you too.
Woohoo! This is our breastfeeding song for those who help our awesome moms.
MC Milkers and the Mammary Gang have been assaulting the eyes and ears of the global south since 2015. They don't sell any Nestle products, but they do perform a useful function for the company. They're rolled out every breastfeeding week to promote the good things about breastfeeding and to brush under the carpet all the bad things about formula feeding. But it's been a while since Nestle swept all those dead babies under the rug of corporate non-responsibility. It's not like they're still at it. Right? Well, Nestle are still at it. They've just gotten a bit sneakier. While formula sales have stalled in many countries, it is soaring in others, especially in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, which is coincidentally where Nestle are focusing their marketing. Save the Children released an expansive report in 2018 detailing how Nestle and other formula companies are still bribing healthcare workers, still giving out free samples in medical settings, and advertising in hospitals. Nestle are breaking the law, but only in countries where they are likely to get away with it.
Smart. That's how you're supposed to do it.
Nestle is also the world's leading producer of plastic bottles that they kindly fill with a free sample of tap water. But hey, what's wrong with that? You've got to stay hydrated, and have you tried carrying water around without a bottle? It's a hassle. Well,
carry around your tummy. Smart way to do it. That's why you gotta carry water in your belly.
As with formula, Nestle's main business strategy seems to be making you pay for things that you should already have for free. In 2005, Nestle's former CEO got into some hot water over comments he made suggesting that access to the wet stuff wasn't a human right.
Die eine Anschauung, extrem würde ich sagen, wird von einigen von den NGOs vertreten, die darauf pochen, dass Wasser zu einem öffentlichen Recht erklärt wird.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Is that? Are we still arguing about that? Water is just should be a human right, right? Yeah. Okay.
Das heißt, als Mensch sollten Sie einfach Recht haben, Wasser zu haben.
Yeah, clean water, clean drinkable water. Yeah, I agree with that.
Das ist die eine Extremlösung.
He rolled back those comments about half.
What was the solution he was referring to? I'm confused.
A decade later on Nestle's official YouTube channel, where he suggested that humans did deserve water, but they would preferably buy it from him.
Let me make it clear from the beginning. I've always supported the human right to water.
Despite the mountain logos and the local springs mentioned in their brand names, Nestle gets most of its water from the same place your bathroom faucet does, the ground. In North America, they tap into municipal water supplies, paying about $10 for every tanker of high-quality H2O. And once they wrap that water up in plastic, that $10 tanker is suddenly worth $50,000.
Wow.
Nestle is pulling Belle Delphine scam on a global scale.
I should stop buying these bottles of water and start drinking out of my sink. I'm just too lazy to filter it.
Great deals on their water because they capture it from states like Maine and Texas, which operate under absolute capture laws, which say you can suck the ground empty provided you own the dirt on top of it. This has proved controversial with people who need that water to live, especially in states suffering from water shortages. In famously dry mouth California, there's no absolute capture allowances, but Nestle were found to be drawing 54 million gallons more than their permit allowed, a permit that expired 2 decades ago. Is this Nestle's fault though?
Yes.
I mean, on this one, I'm not particularly convinced. The company might be sucking America drier than a chapped-lipped hooker at a Nevada truck
Oh, okay,
stop,
no, I understand what you're saying.
but the government's letting them do it.
Yeah. It's a constant trend. The government just doesn't give a fuck because it's money for them. They don't give a shit. They probably have like Nestle lobbyists. Shit.
For the most part, they're not breaking the law. At least not in America. In 2013, in Pakistan, it was found that Nestle were diverting free, clean water away from thousands of people who were forced to drink sludge water because they couldn't afford to have it sold back to them in bottled form.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And when they're not stealing water, they're polluting it. Just last month in France, a Nestle-owned powdered milk factory farted a load of biological sludge into a river and killed over 3 metric tons of fish.
Well, hey, free fish. You know what I mean? A bunch of free fish already dead. Don't have to catch it. A lot of dads would be upset because then you can't have the fun of catching it. But hey, dead fish, eat them up. Boom. It's not like they died of anything like unhealthy. They killed them, so they're probably perfectly healthy to eat. You know what I'm saying?
You know your body count is getting out of control when you're measuring it in tons. Okay, the water and formula stuff is pretty dicey, but ultimately the reason I love Nestle is their variety of confectionery products. And there's nothing wrong with them, right? Right?
I mean, I wasn't even going to talk about child slavery. I was just going to talk about how sugar is really bad for you. Well, here's a good thing. Hershey and Nestle are 2 different brands, so good, because I like Hershey Park. Whew, I had to make sure. I don't know if I had to start boycotting Hershey.
Around the year 2000, Nestle, Cadbury's and Mars got in some hot cocoa for using forced, trafficked and child labour to harvest cocoa beans for their chocolate brands. Speaking together as the Chocolate Manufacturers Association, later rebranded as the World Cocoa Foundation to sound more like an NGO and less like a trade group, these companies promised to do their darndest to make their chocolate slave-free by the year 2005. Well, they've missed that deadline, and have missed every subsequent multi-year deadline they've set themselves since. Nestle have been delaying the release of slave-free chocolate for longer than James Cameron's been working on those Smurf movie sequels. This all sounds really bad, so maybe we should just, hear them out? What are Nestle doing about it? When you visit Nestle's Coca Plan website, they are keen to point out that most of their unpaid child labour, not all of it mind, is done by children working on their parents' farm. Farmers who are too poor to send their kids to school and need help on the farm to make enough money to afford basic necessities like food and clothes.
I mean, yeah, that's a fairly traditional practice in any country, or in the past we did the same thing too. You'd have kids work on the farm. Your best argument here would probably be that Nestle should pay the farmers better. You know what I mean? That would be the best thing to say. Is like, hey, Nestle should pay the farmers better. They should have a better contract. But then you have to unionize the farmers, because what's probably happening is Nestle's probably paying the country or some kind of group in the country to get the product, and then that group is like, give me the product, and then it's one of those things where, let's say maybe Nestle gives this particular group enough money to pay everybody reasonably based on the economic needs of the area, and then that group just isn't doing that. You know what I mean? So it's a whole big thing. You'd have to unionize the farmers, which is not a bad idea or anything, or pay the farmers directly, or I don't know. There's a lot of different things, but that's a potentially complicated solution, because there's probably people in their own country that are taking advantage of those farmers, and then Nestle's dealing with them as an in between, like a middleman group.
Which is not the best argument when you're the pricks paying them. Bowing to public outcry and threats of boycott, Nestle did do something about this in 2010. They took all the cocoa that they were super sure wasn't harvested by child slaves, took all of that and used it to make their flagship chocolate product, the Kit Kat bar. That way they could slap an independently verified fair trade sticker on it and be seen to be doing something about the problem they were causing. This label
smart.
did not extend to most of their chocolate, or even to the vastly superior Kit Kat Chunky, which remained crunch-tacular with the severed limbs of trafficked children.
Cheers, probably why it tastes so good.
But as of this year, they decided to pack that in too. They have concluded their partnership with Fairtrade to focus on their new partnership with the Rainforest Alliance and work on sustainable cocoa farming. As in 2020, it's more
What does that mean? Cutting down the rainforest and doing more cocoa farms? What?
fashionable to appear environmentally correct than ethically correct, and apparently, you can't do both. It's also much cheaper and more achievable. And this is just proof that Nestle were never really worried about the whole slavery thing. They were just worried about what you, the chocolate buying public, thought about it.
Well, yeah, but that comes another problem. People don't give a singular fuck. That's the problem. And like, obviously Nestle is very heavily to blame. But what about every individual that's like, hey, you know what? I still like me some Kit Kats. It's one of those things. And a lot of people will argue, a lot of left-leaning people too, which is kind of fucked up. They'll argue, well, there's so much abuse in the system at this point, you really can't care. This is one of those things people do, right? They'll say like, okay, there's a lot of issues within the system, which is true. So what we're going to do is like, we really can't do anything about it as individuals. So we're going to pressure the government to deal with these problems. And it makes sense to go that avenue. But also, you know, you can minimize oppression in some capacity. You could, for instance, just stop eating chocolate. You know, you really could do something like that. I said doo-doo. Nice. You could eat doo-doo. There are things you can do as individuals. You could potentially try to find a rich investor that, you know, professes that he loves, you know, socialist ideologies and that we need to have less abusive foods. And you can get him to, or her, or has son, and you could create a business model and that's like, oh, we use like slave-free chocolate and we create like a small community, or slave-free cell phones that like not iPhones, things like that. They'd be more expensive, but you know, if you get a good big investor that could advertise the product as well, people would pay more money for it. People with money now, it might not grow huge, but it would show that there's a place for it and it could become bigger and bigger. You know, do something like that. Take the initiative, bro. Use capitalism to fight capitalism, bro. Just saying.
Nestle are not a food company. They are a natural resource company with chocolate and cat food divisions. Their major strategy is depriving...
You know, honestly, mixing the sweetness of chocolate and the savoriness of cat food might taste pretty good. People
of necessities and then selling them an expensive alternative.
Give me a break, give me a break, break me off a piece of that Kit Kat.
Nice.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching.
What did that last thing say?
Break me off a piece of that Kit Kat.
Thank you all my patrons. Okay.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I haven't decided yet, but if you have...
All right, cool to all those guys. Very pogger. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and another special shout out to all my Patreon and Twitch subs. If you'd like to support this channel further than you already have by just watching the video alone, go down to the links below where you can sub on my Patreon, which will allow you to get your name on this beautiful black wall. Or you can go to the Twitch page and you can actually use a free Amazon Prime sub, if you have Amazon Prime, to subscribe. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.